Let's face it, even if it stings. Most people lack the guts to tell you straight to your face that they don't like you. Instead, they cloak their true feelings behind strained smiles, empty compliments, or politeness so forced you can almost feel the chill beneath it. I've been there myself, convinced I had genuine friends, only to discover they were quietly rooting for my failure, even relishing the thought of me stumbling. It's a harsh reality to swallow, but it's a bitter pill we need to take. Life's too fleeting to waste time and energy on those who, deep down, don't value or care for you. If you don't learn to spot the subtle signs of dislike masked with clever disguises, you'll stay trapped in hollow relationships, fooling yourself into thinking everything's fine. So, let's strip away the pretty veneer and get to the heart of it. 7 signs that someone doesn't like you but hides it well. You might flinch or ache at what's coming, but facing the truth beats living in delusion any. Sign 1. They're always joking about your flaws. Picture this. There's always that one person in your circle who can't resist turning you into the punchline. They zero in on your quirks. Maybe it's the way you stumble over words when you're nervous, the shirt you wore twice in a week, or that project you poured your heart into but didn't quite nail. With a grin and a casual, "Just kidding, relax," they toss these barbs your way, and at first you might shrug it off as light-hearted teasing. After all, who doesn't enjoy a little friendly ribbing? But let's peel back the layers here. Those jabs aren't as innocent as they seem. What starts as a chuckle can slowly morph into something sharper, something designed to nick your confidence one subtle cut at a time. I've been there myself. I had a friend, or so I thought, who never missed a chance to poke fun at me. It was always the same routine: a sly comment about my awkward laugh, a jab at my taste in music, or a quip about how I was trying too hard with my latest idea. In the beginning, I played along, forcing a smile and telling myself it was all in good spirit. But over time, I couldn't ignore the pattern staring me in the face. These weren't random zingers. They were arrows aimed squarely at my insecurities, never once grazing my strengths. I started catching myself in the mirror, wondering if my laugh really was that weird, or if my ideas were as half-baked as they implied. That's when it hit me. Their humor wasn't building me up. It was breaking me down, and I'd been too polite to see it. Here's where the real conversation begins. Those who constantly lean on this kind of humor aren't just joking. They're probing. They're tossing out these little grenades to test your limits, to see how much you'll let slide before you push back. It's not affection driving them. It's a quiet power play, a way to keep you on the back foot while they stay comfortably above you. And the kicker? Society's got us wired to take it on the chin. We're told to lighten up or not be so sensitive, as if calling out disrespect makes us the fragile ones. But let's rewrite that rulebook right now. There's nothing weak about refusing to be someone's emotional punching bag. Think about it. True friends don't need to sharpen their wit at your expense. They don't get a thrill from watching you squirm or second-guess yourself. Real camaraderie lifts you higher. It's the voice that says, "Hey, you nailed that," or "Don't sweat the small stuff, I've got your back." People who care don't weaponize your vulnerabilities, they shield them. I've watched too many folks let this slide, swallowing the discomfort because confrontation feels messier than silence. But here's the raw truth. Every time you let it pass, you're handing them a free pass to keep chipping away. It's a slow erosion. Those harmless jabs pile up until you're left questioning your own worth, all because you didn't want to rock the boat. I learned this lesson the hard way, and it wasn't pretty. For months I'd laugh along, pretending it didn't sting, until I realized I was part of the problem. By not speaking up, I was green-lighting their behavior, letting them define me through their lens. The shift came when I stopped playing along. One day, after yet another joke about my clumsy attempt at cooking, I looked them dead in the eye and said, "Why is it always my flaws you find so funny?" The silence that followed was deafening. They stammered, backtracked, and suddenly the just kidding excuse didn't hold water. That moment wasn't just about them. It was about me reclaiming my space. I stopped letting their words carve me up and started standing firm in who I was. So here's the deal. Next time someone lobs a joke your way that feels more like a jab, pause and dig deeper. Ask yourself, is this actually funny, or is it a veiled shot? If it's the latter, don't just grin and bear it. Call it out. Maybe it's a simple, "What's that supposed to mean?" Or a firm, "I'm not here for that." Yeah, it might get awkward. Yeah, it might even cost you the relationship. But your dignity, that's non-negotiable. Life's too fleeting to waste on people who dim your light to brighten theirs. And let's expand the lens a bit. Why do they do this? Sometimes it's insecurity. They're propping themselves up by pushing you down. Other times it's just habit, a lazy way to fill the air without thinking about the fallout. But motive doesn't change the impact. You're not their therapist or their punching bag. You're a person who deserves respect, not a target for their amusement. I've seen this play out beyond friendships too, in workplaces, families, even casual acquaintances. It's the co-worker who teases your typo in front of the team, the sibling who jokes about your single status at every reunion. The setting changes, but the game's the same. Control masked as comedy. My sign 2. They give compliments that sting like insults. Imagine you're at a gathering, sharing a win you've worked hard for. A promotion, a creative project, something that lights you up. The room hums with chatter until someone leans in, voice smooth as silk, and says, "Hey, that's impressive. Didn't think you had it in you." For a split second, you're lifted. Then the weight of those last words crashes down. Was that a compliment or a jab? Spoiler, it's both. And that's the trap. These backhanded remarks slide in like a friend but cut like a foe, designed to unsettle you while cloaked in politeness. I've been there myself, beaming with pride over a project I'd slaved over, only to hear a colleague quip, "This is solid. Surprising, given your usual stuff." The smile froze on my face as I processed it. Surprising, usual stuff? It wasn't praise. It was a subtle shove to remind me of some imagined limit they'd set for me. Let's cut to the chase. These aren't compliments gone wrong. They're deliberate. They're a quiet flex, a way for someone to perch above you while tossing you crumbs of approval. The subtext screams, "You're reaching, but don't forget I'm still ahead." It's a mind game, and the worst part is how easy it is to miss the venom beneath the velvet. Dig deeper, though, and you'll see what drives it. People who wield these barbs often feel the heat of your potential. Your growth, your grit, it spooks them. So they sprinkle a little doubt into their kindness to keep you from outshining their fragile spotlight. And here's the uncomfortable mirror. We've all flirted with this ourselves, haven't we? A stray comment born from a flicker of jealousy, a need to feel taller by nudging someone else down a peg. It's human, but it's not excusable. The real power lies in this. You don't have to play along. Those words, "You're sharper than I expect," they're a glimpse into their head, not a scorecard for your life. I've learned to flip the lens and ask, what's this really about? When I started doing that, the sting dulled. Better yet, I stopped letting it simmer in silence. Now, when a compliment feels off, I'll hit back with a calm, "Thanks. What exactly did you mean by that?" It's like flipping on a light in a dark room. They blink, stumble, suddenly aware you're not here for their games. I've watched the shift happen, the backpedaling, the awkward laugh. It's not about confrontation. It's about clarity. Here's the bigger picture. Their veiled digs don't get to define you. Seeing them as a reflection of someone else's unease, rather than your reality, turns the tables. You might even catch yourself grinning at how predictable it becomes, their need to undercut you only proving your strength. Your worth isn't a debate for them to moderate with sly asides. True praise doesn't need a disclaimer. It's clean, direct, and free of strings. So when the next compliment lands with an edge, don't just shrug it off. Probe it. Ask what's behind it, not to stir drama, but to stand firm. Life's too short to let shaky egos dim your fire. Seek out the ones who lift you without hesitation, who celebrate you without a catch. You're not here to absorb their leftovers. You're here to rise unapologetically. Sign 3. They subtly exclude you from plans. You've probably felt it before. A compliment lands in your lap, but instead of warming you up, it leaves a chill, like a handshake that turns into a slight push. On the surface, it's polite, even friendly, yet something's off, nudging you to wonder if you've just been subtly undercut. These aren't straightforward words of support, they're clever little grenades, lobbing praise with a side of shade. I ran into this once myself. After sweating over a project I was damn proud of, I showed it to a few colleagues, expecting some honest reactions. One of them, someone I'd figured had my back, smirked and said, "This is surprisingly solid coming from you." It sounded nice for a split second, until that "coming from you" part sank in like a splinter. Was I supposed to be grateful? Or was this a polite way of saying I'm usually a mess? It stuck with me, not because I'm thin-skinned, but because it hinted at a judgment I hadn't seen coming. Let's strip it down. These aren't flukes. They're intentional, a slick tactic to dent your confidence while the speaker keeps their halo intact. It's not about lifting you up, it's about nudging you back into a box they're comfortable with. The brilliance lies in the delivery, so smooth you might hesitate to call it out, afraid of sounding paranoid. But here's the real angle. It's rarely about your flaws and almost always about their fears. People who sling these zingers often see your grit, your potential, and it rattles them. They're not secure enough to let you shine unchecked, so they weave in these quiet barbs to keep you grounded, more for their sake than yours. It's a sneaky push-pull, cloaked as camaraderie. Now, let's own something messy. We've all dipped into this at some point. Maybe you've let a "pretty good for you" slide out, not meaning to wound but still drawing a line. It's not always venom. Sometimes it's just insecurity leaking through. The bigger point. You don't have to let it stick. Those words aren't your mirror. They're theirs, reflecting their wobbles, not your worth. When they toss out a "you're sharper than I thought" or "this works," despite your inexperience, you've got every right to brush it off, or flip it back. I've learned to lean into that. These days, if a compliment feels like a jab, I don't just smile through it. I'll hit them with a calm, "Thanks. What's that mean exactly?" It's not about picking a fight. It's about holding the line. They'll either fumble or back off, but either way, you've shifted the weight. Step back, and it's more than petty wordplay. It's a glimpse into how people wrestle for footing. Some can't handle your rise without tossing a rope to reel you in. Others don't even see the sting, too tangled in their own heads to notice. But you're not here to babysit their motives. You're here to guard your own space. Here's a twist. What if you took their faint praise and ran with it? Let decent for you fuel you to blow past their ceiling, not to spite them, but to claim what's yours. It's less about proving a point and more about owning your stride. Here's the core. Your value doesn't shrink under someone's sly digs. Real praise doesn't come with a leash. It's clear, bold, and builds you up without footnotes. If their words feel like a mixed bag, that's their load to sort, not yours to carry. Don't waste time on folks who can't root for you straight up. Life's too short, and you're too solid. Surround yourself with the ones who see your fire and fan it. No strings attached. The rest can keep their half-baked takes. You've got bigger ground to cover. See sign 4. They're busy only when it comes to you. Let's face it. "I'm too busy" is the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. We've all heard it, and we've probably used it ourselves. It's so easy to nod along and accept it, Who doesn't have a packed schedule these days? But then you notice something unsettling. They're not too busy to post selfies at a concert with other friends or to grab coffee with a coworker you both know. Yet, when you reach out, their calendar magically fills up. The truth hits hard. Their busy isn't about time, it's about you. They're not swamped, they're just not making room for you in their life. I've lived this pattern more times than I'd like to count. There was this one friend I genuinely cherished, someone I'd shared late-night talks and big dreams with. I'd text, "Hey, let's catch up soon." And the replies were always the same. "Work's crazy right now," or "I've got so much going on, maybe later." Later never came. Then I'd scroll through my feed and see them laughing at a barbecue I wasn't invited to, or tagging others in weekend adventures. It stung. At first I blamed myself. Maybe I'd done something wrong, or maybe I wasn't fun enough anymore. But eventually, the dots connected. I wasn't a priority. I was an option they kept on the back burner. Here's where it gets messy. Society drills into us that busy is a badge of honor, a noble excuse we shouldn't question. We're taught to shrug it off, to be understanding, because calling it out feels petty or clingy. But let's strip that lie bare. Time isn't the issue, choice is. People carve out hours for what matters to them, whether it's a Netflix binge, a gym session, or the people they can't imagine life without. If you're the one always hearing "I'm too busy," it's not a scheduling conflict. It's a silent declaration that you don't rank high enough on their list. That realization cuts deep, not just because it exposes their feelings, but because it forces you to question your own. Why are you still chasing someone who's already checked out? The real kicker is how sneaky this behavior can be. Busy is a shield, a polite dodge that avoids the messy honesty of saying, "I don't value this anymore." It's less about courage and more about convenience. They'd rather keep you dangling than risk an awkward confrontation. I've been guilty of it too, dodging plans with vague excuses when I didn't know how to admit a friendship had run its course. But being on the other side opened my eyes. I once mustered the nerve to ask my friend, "You're always busy when I reach out. What's really going on?" The stammering response and quick subject change told me everything. It wasn't comfortable, but it was a gift. Clarity. I stopped pouring energy into a one-sided connection and started seeking out people who didn't need a crisis to make time for me. And here's the heart of it. Your time, your energy, your heart. They're not disposable. You're not here to beg for scraps of attention from someone who doles it out like a rare favor. When busy becomes their default with you, it's a signal to step back and take stock. Relationships evolve. Sometimes they fade naturally, sometimes they're outgrown. But clinging to them out of fear or nostalgia only dims your own light. I used to dread letting go, terrified of the void it might leave. But I learned there's power in walking away from those who don't see your worth. It's not needy to want mutual effort. It's self-respect. Think about this. What if you stopped reaching out? Would they notice, or would the silence stretch on unbothered? That's your answer. You deserve people who light up at the thought of seeing you, who text you first, who shuffle their day around because your presence matters to them. Don't let busy guilt you into settling for less. It's not about demanding their every second. It's about knowing you're worth more than their leftovers. So next time they pull the "too busy" card while their life says otherwise, don't just swallow it. Ask yourself what you're holding on to, and whether it's time to invest in connections that don't leave you feeling like an afterthought. You're not here to be someone's backup plan. You're here to shine. So sign 5. They avoid physical contact like the plague. Let's dive into something we often overlook: physical touch, or the glaring absence of it. This isn't about romance or grand gestures. It's about the simple, everyday ways we connect as humans. A handshake, a pat on the shoulder, even brushing elbows while sharing a laugh. These are the threads that weave trust and closeness into our relationships. So, When someone dodges these moments with you like they're sidestepping a live wire, what's really going on? Spoiler alert, it's not a good sign. It's a quiet but unmistakable hint that they're uneasy around you, and it's worth tuning in to that frequency. I had this experience with a coworker once, and it stuck with me. Every time I'd extend a hand for a casual greeting or lean in for a friendly nudge during a team chat, they'd pull back, subtly, but enough to notice. At first I brushed it off, thinking, maybe they're just not into physical contact. But then I saw the contrast. With others, they were all smiles, hugs, and high fives. With me, it was like an invisible wall shot up every time I got close. Over time, it dawned on me. This wasn't some random habit. It was intentional, a way to signal distance without ever saying a word. Now here's where it gets tricky. And yes, a little contentious. Physical touch is baked into how we bond as people. It's not just about affection. It's a language of comfort and belonging. When someone consistently skips that step with you, it's not always because they're just not a hugger. Sure, personal boundaries matter, and some folks genuinely prefer their space. No judgment there. But when it's selective, when they're cozy with everyone else but freeze up around you, it's a clue something's off balance. Are they secretly uneasy? Do they feel a disconnect they won't voice? Their bodies saying what their words won't. And we've all danced this dance before, either dodging someone ourselves or feeling that sting of being the one avoided. Think about it. Have you ever hesitated to touch someone because the vibe felt wrong? Maybe you didn't even realize why. You just knew closeness didn't fit. Or perhaps you've sensed someone pulling away from you, leaving you wondering what you did to earn that flinch. It's awkward as hell, no doubt, but it's also revealing. Physical touch isn't just a habit, it's a barometer for connection. When it's missing, it's not just about the absence of a handshake. It's about the absence of warmth, trust, even vulnerability. They're holding you at a distance, and not just physically. It's a wall that says, you don't get all of me. And that's a signal worth decoding. For me, this clicked after too long of pretending it didn't matter. I used to tell myself, oh, they're just quirky, or it's not personal. But reflection flipped the script. That avoidance wasn't random. It tied back to how they saw me or didn't see me in their world. So I stopped ignoring it. I started watching closer, asking myself, is this a one-off or a pattern? And when it was a pattern, I faced it head-on. Sometimes it sparked tough talks, conversations that either cleared the air or confirmed the rift. Other times it meant walking away, but either way, it cut through the fog of wondering why things felt so damn off. Here's the raw truth. Physical touch builds bridges. It's how we say, I'm here, I'm with you, without words. When someone opts out of that with you, they're not just skipping a gesture. They're opting out of a deeper bond. Maybe they don't trust you fully, or maybe they're wrestling with their own discomfort. Whatever it is, it's not your job to fix it, but it is your job to notice it. Don't let it slide as no big deal. Call it out if it feels right. Maybe not with a confrontation, but with a question. Hey, I've noticed you pull back sometimes. Everything okay between us? It might unearth something real, or it might show you the relationship's limits. Either way, you're not left guessing. And let's expand this a bit, because it's not just about their avoidance. It's about what it does to you. That subtle rejection can creep into your head, making you question your own presence. Do I come on too strong? Am I misreading the room? It's a mind game you don't need. You deserve connections where touch, whether a fist bump or a full-on hug, feels natural, not forced or feared. Relationships should feel like a warm current, not a cold standoff. So if someone's treating you like a no-contact zone while they're all hands-on with others, don't shrug it off. Dig into it. Life's too fleeting for half-hearted ties where you're left reaching for a connection they won't meet. You're worth more than an arm's-length friendship. Demand it, even if it means letting go. Sign 6. They disappear when you need support. Let's face it, life isn't always a highlight reel. The real measure of any relationship isn't found in the laughter-filled nights or the easy, carefree moments. It's forged in the crucible of hardship. When you're drowning in a crisis, the people who stick around reveal their worth, while those who vanish expose a truth you might not want to see. They're not as committed to you as you are to them. This isn't just about someone being unreliable. It's a glaring signal that their investment in you has limits, and those limits kick in the moment you stop being convenient. I've lived this firsthand. During a brutal chapter of my life when everything seemed to collapse at once, I reached out to friends I'd counted on for years. I wasn't asking for much, just a call, a message, anything to show they cared. Instead, I got silence, punctuated by weak excuses. Work's insane right now. I've been meaning to reach out. Let's catch up soon. That soon never came, and the sting of their absence cut deeper than the crisis itself. Here's where it gets messy. We're taught to expect loyalty, to believe that the people we've poured time and energy into will naturally reciprocate when we're the ones in need. Society drills into us this idea that friendship is a two-way street, but the reality, a lot of people are only in it for the smooth ride. They'll cheer you on when you're winning, share your victories, and bask in your good vibes. But the second your life gets messy, they're out the door. It's not just cowardice, it's a calculated choice. Supporting someone through pain takes effort, emotional labor, and a willingness to step into discomfort. For some, that's too high a price to pay, especially if they never saw you as more than a casual ally. I felt the weight of that realization sink in when I thought back to all the times I'd been there for them, listening through their tears, offering advice during their chaos, only to see them scatter when my turn came. It's a betrayal that doesn't announce itself with a fight or a fallout. It's quieter, colder, and somehow more devastating. But let's dig deeper. This disappearing act isn't always about malice. It can stem from their own insecurities or inability to handle vulnerability, yours or theirs. Maybe they don't know how to help, or maybe your struggle reminds them of something they'd rather avoid. That doesn't excuse it, though. True connection isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, even imperfectly. When they choose absence over effort, they're telling you your pain doesn't rank on their priority list. And here's the kicker. We often let them off the hook, blaming ourselves for expecting too much or buying into their flimsy justifications. I did that for a while, wondering if I'd misjudged our bond or if I'd somehow asked for more than I deserved. But the truth hit me hard. I wasn't the problem. Their absence was their answer. The real takeaway here is about clarity and courage. Hardship doesn't just test relationships, it defines them. When someone bails the moment you need a lifeline, they're not just letting you down. They're handing you a gift of insight. You don't need to cling to people who only show up for the party. Instead, let their exit sharpen your focus on who's worth keeping close. I've learned to see those dark moments as a sieve, filtering out the superficial and leaving behind the gold. The ones who text back, who sit with you in silence, who prove their loyalty when it's least convenient for them. That's the kind of support that builds something lasting. And it's not just about them, it's about you too. Don't let their retreat dim your spirit. Use it to grow stronger, to demand more from your circle, and to recognize your own resilience. Life's too fleeting to waste on one-sided bonds. Surround yourself with people who weather the storm with you, not those who only show up when the skies are clear. Because when you find those who stand firm when everything else crumbles, you've struck something rare and real. As for the ones who fade away, don't chase them. They've already told you who they are. Believe them and move on. You're worth more than their half-hearted presence. Sign 7. They gossip about you behind your back. Gossip isn't just idle chatter. It's a destructive force, a quiet blade that cuts through trust and leaves relationships in ruins. It's the kind of behavior that hides behind a mask of innocence, but don't be fooled. When someone you call a friend whispers about you behind closed doors, they're not just passing the time. They're undermining your worth, eroding your reputation, and chipping away at the bond you thought you shared. The truth is stark and undeniable. If they're gossiping about you, they don't hold you in high regard, no matter how warmly they smile to your face. I've felt this sting firsthand, and it's a wound that lingers. Once, I opened up to someone I trusted, pouring out a struggle that weighed heavily on my heart. I thought it was safe, a moment of vulnerability between friends. But within days, I heard echoes of my story, distorted, embellished, and served up as gossip fodder for others' amusement. It wasn't just a breach of confidence. It was a calculated act that turned my pain into their social currency. Let's dig into the uncomfortable reality. Gossip isn't a slip of the tongue or a casual vent. It's a deliberate choice with a purpose. People who spread it often do so to feel bigger, to climb a little higher by stepping on you. It's a power move, subtle yet vicious, that lets them revel in your flaws or misfortunes without ever facing you head-on. They're too spineless to say it outright, so they cloak their disdain in whispers, letting the rumor mill do the dirty work. And here's where it gets darker. This isn't a one-off mistake. If they're eager to dish dirt about others in your presence, don't kid yourself. They're doing the same with your secrets when you're out of earshot. I've watched this play out repeatedly. The friend who thrives on spilling everyone else's business suddenly clams up around you, their silence a telltale sign. Why? Because they're saving your story for the next audience, trading your trust for a cheap moment of attention. What's worse, society often shrugs it off. We're taught to brush gossip aside as harmless chatter, to laugh along or stay quiet to keep the peace. But that's a lie we need to stop swallowing. When I confronted the person who betrayed me, I hoped for accountability, an apology, maybe even a shred of remorse. Instead, they waved it away, claiming it was no big deal, just a bit of fun. That dismissal cut deeper than the gossip itself. It showed me that they didn't see the harm because to them, I wasn't worth the respect. Gossip isn't trivial. It's a weapon, and its damage ripples far beyond the moment. It fractures trust, leaving you questioning not just that relationship, but your ability to open up to anyone. Over time, it can make you guarded, hesitant to share, because the fear of being fodder for someone else's conversation lingers. Here's the deeper angle. Gossip reflects the gossiper's character more than yours. It's their insecurity, their need to control the narrative, that drives them to tear you down. They might feel threatened by you, your strengths, your resilience, or simply crave the validation that comes from being the one in the know. But knowing that doesn't erase the betrayal. I learned that the hard way, and it forced me to rethink who I let into my circle. You deserve people who guard your confidence, not exploit it. If they're spinning tales about you in the shadows, they're not just disrespecting you, they're showing you they don't belong in your life. It's a tough truth, but here's the unfiltered truth. Not everyone who's in your life deserves to stay there. The signs we've laid out, jokes that cut too deep, compliments that sting, exclusion dressed as oversight, excuses that pile up, distance that screams louder than words, absence when you're breaking, and whispers behind your back, aren't just red flags. They're a map to who's really with you and who's just along for the ride. I've walked this road, pouring energy into people who couldn't wait to see me stumble, and it taught me something brutal but liberating. You can't force loyalty, and you shouldn't have to. Life's too short to cling to relationships that drain you, to keep giving pieces of yourself to those who'd rather see you shrink than shine. The moment I stopped chasing approval and started valuing myself, everything shifted. I found the ones who build me up, who show up without being begged, who don't need to tear me down to feel tall. That's the gold you hold on to. The rest, they're just noise. Let them fade out. You don't need to waste another second decoding mixed signals or swallowing disrespect to keep the peace. You're worth more than that. Surround yourself with people who see you, who choose you, who match your effort without a second thought. It's not about being perfect or demanding the world. It's about knowing you deserve a seat at the table, not the scraps from it. So take a hard look at your circle. Who's lifting you up and who's quietly pulling you down? Don't be afraid to walk away from the ones who've already checked out. Your energy's precious. Spend it on those who prove they're worth it. Now grab a pen or open your notes app. Write down one person who's shown you these signs and decide today what you're going to do about it. Your move.